You're listening to the Caramel Apples podcast. I'm Kennedy Rizzo,
And I'm Cooper Lee.
and this week we're going to do a deep dive into the ever famous riveting hair band slash AOR metal group Def Leppard and how they heavily influenced, impacted, and entranced so many back then, all the way up to present day. Talk about bringing on the heartbreak. This retro trek is going to be so excitable. So, without further ado, let's rock it into the orchard.
So, in our discussion this week, we, the Caramel Apples, will revisit, recall, and briefly look back on some of the tantalizing history and career highlights of one of the most revered, sought after metal hair bands of the rock and 80s sphere, that of Def Leppard.
Oh my goodness, Cooper. Oh no, I am so excited to be discussing Def Leppard this week.
I hear you.
Oh no, I'm gonna tell you, they are literally one of my personal favorite standout bands of the 80s,
Mm.
of that whole era. It was refreshing to hear amazing songs like theirs emanating over the radio waves. This music defines our lives and experiences. I mean, life was life, and being a teenager was an absolute adventure.
Truly, Kennedy. This was a time that was considered the golden era of AOR rock and virtuoso guitarist.
Mm-hmm.
A time when bands actually wrote and took great pride in their own songs, playing their own instruments.
Yes.
What a concept.
Yes, very foreign these days.
So, fun fact, one may ask, what exactly is AOR rock? This actually may be somewhat helpful to our younger generational listeners, but AOR is defined as a type of popular music in which a hard rock background is combined with softer or more melodic elements.
Okay.
I think that defines Def Leppard quite actually.
I do too, Cooper. And that nicely sets up for our most anticipated discussion on Def Leppard this week. So let's jump right in.
Okay.
Def Leppard is a British rock band that formed in 1977 in Sheffield, South Yorkshire, England. The band consisted of five brilliantly talented guys, that being Joe Elliott as lead vocalist, Rick Savage on bass and background vocals, Rick Allen for drums and background vocals, and actually more on his fascinating experience a little later. Then we got Phil Collin with an E and no S. Not that Phil Collins.
Shoot.
I know, we'll get there. But this gentleman, Phil Collin, he's on guitars and background vocals. And then we have Vivian Campbell on guitars. Def Leppard had well established themselves as part of the ever popular new wave of the British heavy metal movement of the early 80s.
And establish themselves they did.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got something very interesting to share with both you and our listeners, Kennard.
Oh, okay.
So, fun fact, did you know that Def Leppard, when they first started out, was known as Atomic Mass from 1977 to 79?
Hmm.
Neat, I guess, but I'm thinking the change to Def Leppard is a much better option in my humble opinion.
Yeah. I guess it's not bad, but yeah. I agree, Cooper. Def Leppard for the win. Def Leppard.
Wait, don't you mean Atomic Mass?
All right, stop it, Coop. You're so bad. That's what I was saying. The band's greatest commercial success came into full effect mode between the early 80s through the early 90s.
Yes, this group and so many others like them were such a huge mainstay during this wistful nostalgic era.
Hmm.
So, not only are we easily transported back there once you hear the opening notes of any given one of their masterpieces, but a flood of other nostalgia of that time truly comes rushing back as well.
Yes.
As you mentioned mere moments ago, Kennard, that this music defined our lives, all of our experiences back then.
Uh huh.
Def Leppard is a huge part of those cherished experiences, especially those with our girl squad.
Oh my goodness, Cooper. Yes, yes. And for those of us that had the caramelicious privilege of coming up in the 80s, we'd listen to Def Leppard, and you could literally close your eyes and so easily recall what was going on in your life,
Mm.
as well as who was around you, who we were running with.
Our girl squad.
Yes, those crazy bozos. That's okay. We're the crazy bozos too. But we didn't even think twice about it at the time because it was what our life and our experiences were.
Mm.
And it was much more carefree and enjoyable back then. Oh, totally
Yeah.
miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but looking back, it was rather extraordinary. I mean, we really had access to some of the greatest music and tracks of all time. Def Leppard being a key part of that.
Yeah. So, real quick on that, since we were with our girl squad, like almost probably like 99.9% of the time,
The running bozos.
yes, we share everything. We shared clothes, any and everything. So, among those things, this was my second cassette tape actually that I purchased with my own money, which was the Def Leppard Hysteria album on cassette tape. And I let one of our dear friends borrow it. That was no problem, and she had it for quite some time, and that was no problem. But then when she went to give it back, we were on our way to Ponderosa.
Oh, that's a blast from the past.
I know, right? We're all packed in their big conversion van. Anyway,
Yep.
and we were like in the very back, and I remember she had on a coat. She took it out of her coat pocket, and she's like, "Oh, what happened?" It was already broken. You could tell it was already broken because, like, her reaction was so not genuine, like an authentic. Like, oh, what happened?
It was so mechanical.
It was. She knew she was hoping to not be in hot water, and I just kind of gave her the side eye and like, okay, thanks for returning it. As long as the tape's not broken, it's fine.
Oh, can't have nothing nice.
I know. All was forgiven.
Good job, Coop. You're a good person. You're a good apple.
Thanks. But, you know, back to it, the music and memories such as this is what, as you mentioned, so many fond moments of nostalgia come flooding back whenever you hear any given song roll out.
Oh, yeah.
Good times of friends all hanging out together, less stress. We weren't so completely consumed yet by the tech age, the inundation of smartphones and tablets glued to every palm coming and going.
Facts.
My It's just crazy how different things look and how things have changed over the last 35 years.
Yes, yes.
So amazed and thankful to have come up during that time.
Oh, me too, Cooper. I am so, so glad we got to experience this firsthand.
Hmm.
In Technicolor, even.
Right?
Totally dating us.
Yes.
With the color TV. But in all seriousness, though, music was vibrant, exciting, was charged, and going places. All the top notch ingredients, if you will, to craft experiences in such a way that gave us such fond memories of those very times now.
Yeah.
Def Leppard showcased this well, very well.
Hmm. Now, as we've stated in previous Orchard Treks, that when there's a wealth of discoveries of any given topic we dive into, we really like to share mostly, focus on some of the key highlights of such that fall within our chosen time decade parameters.
Hmm.
So that's exactly what we'll be doing this week, too. So, what do we have here, Kennedy?
So glad you asked, Cooper. So Def Leppard again got their start in 1977, but their first 80s album entitled On Through the Night hit the top 15 in the UK. But although good, it didn't really make much noise other than there. The following year, in 1981, their second album was released entitled High and Dry and was produced by Mutt Lange.
Mutt Lange played a key role as producer for Def Leppard at the time because it was he who helped categorize and define their melodic hard rock style.
Mm.
The AOR, rock and virtuoso guitarist we mentioned in an earlier fun fact. This sound was super pivotal in getting Def Leppard to stand out, soon to rise above the competitors. The album's most popular track, Bringing on the Heartbreak, stood out as sheer proof of this winning combination. How do we know? Fun fact: true to that era in which Def Leppard was making some beautiful noise, did you know that Bringing on the Heartbreak became one of the first rock videos played on MTV in 1982?
Oh.
But unlike Def Leppard's first album, this one reached the top 30 and 40 charts in both the UK and the US.
Oh, that's what we like hearing now.
Right?
We're moving in the right direction.
Indeed, we are, Kenneth.
So, continuing on that momentum, we're now ready to discuss Def Leppard's next studio album that was released in 1983, Pyromania. Woo,
Pyromania.
woo, woo!
A couple of chart toppers contained therein we came to enjoy was Photograph and Rock of Ages,
Hmm.
which both unsurprisingly roared up the US rock track chart, reaching the top 20 of the Hot 100.
Hmm.
The Pyromania album reached number 2 here on the US album chart. It was also certified diamond status in the States by the RIAA, that's Recording Industry Association of America, as well as 7 times platinum in Canada and hitting the top 20 at home for them in the UK. But that's where most of this album impact was.
Pyromania, as we stated previously, shifted away from its earlier traditional heavy metal roots toward a more radio friendly sound, which propelled Def Leppard toward massive mainstream success. Selling over 10 million copies, Pyromania charted at number 2 on the Billboard 200, as you just shared there, Coop. And whatever could be the reason for this, though.
Good question.
I'm just putting this disclaimer out there that we're just over the moon at deep diving Def Leppard success, and so glad it happened. LOVE me some Def Leppard, just saying.
I can verify for that. I vouch for that.
Love them.
Well, the first and very important reason we just discussed was that Mutt Lange was at the helm of the Pyromania album by producing it. as producer and in introducing Def Leppard into the 80s AOR rock realm we recall so well.
Hmm.
But what came along with this shift was the virtuoso guitarist.
Oh my gosh, the guitars!
Yes, the guitars. They were absolutely epic.
They were.
This is a fun fact. Founding member, songwriter, and guitarist Pete Willis exited stage left in 1982 and was replaced by current band member, guitarist Phil Collen with an E. But still, did you know that Pete Willis was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a member of Def Leppard in 2019?
Okay.
I'd say that's both a nice ode and honor to the group's founding member.
Much agreed, Coop. So now that we've introduced our new guitarist on board, this is where I'd like to open this up a bit more on why Def Leppard, as well as so many other bands back then, exploded into stardom when continuously rolling out hit after glorious hit. So why is that?
Hmm. Hmm.
It's because, much like everything else, there was real and raw talent in greater supply back then. You just kind of alluded to that. And there was much fresher ideas and concepts that translated over into the creative side of things,
Mhm.
especially in entertainment. I guess it's a matter of opinion and up for strong debate in what classifies as raw talent. What we sadly have by way of music, and I say that lightly in air quotes, today going is laughable at best.
Mhm.
Can we say auto tune?
Yeah, auto tune.
That sounded like it too.
But in thinking about Def Leppard, okay, we can instantaneously hear the profound components within any given song.
Right.
So, what stands out to you most?
Okay, I'd say the voice of lead singer Joe Elliott. I like his voice. It's awesome and it's very epitome of what defines the unique sound of Def Leppard. Joe Elliott has a very distinctive voice and was a great performer who put on a high energy show. He is well known for that distinct raspy voice. I absolutely love it.
Okay, what else?
Okay, I like the guitar medleys and riffs. Even the harder cryptic play dueling they do. Totally love it.
What else?
I also like how the group, worked well together in harmony and looked after each both professionally as well as personally. Okay, Coop, enough with your shotgun questions. Stinky. What do you appreciate about Def Leppard?
I've always adored the drums and drumming. So Rick Allen really brought it when it came to wielding those drums.
Oh, facts.
He owned it too, and he helped define that oh so distinctive sound that is very signature Def Leppard.
Oh, couldn't have said it any better myself. Nice explanation there, Coop. But since we're talking about one of the most popular metal hair bands from back in the 70s and 80s, and really in true caramel apple fashion, leading into more of what Def Leppard did in the 80s mainly, in my humble opinion, they had more of that effortless raw talent to showcase. They really checked all the boxes. I mean, they played instruments, they sang,
Yeah.
performed live on stage and in concerts.
Yeah, you mix in a little suave and charisma, and you have the sheer unadulterated attraction and appeal that made many a hairband be ranked as the big time.
Oh, yeah.
Tried and true fans ate it up.
Oh, truly. Which is why and how we gravitated toward Def Leppard naturally.
Uh-huh.
Hair bands, metal music, they were synonymous to the rocking 80s.
And speaking of hair bands and glam metal,
Mm-mm.
many do and have argued that so many of who was popular at the time was due to the very appearance of what fueled white hot back then, during the MTV era.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was part of a working trend the entertainment industry was pushing. Well, because it worked, but ones have stated that appearance is not talent. So,
I don't know, which, we can't really deny at all. Um, with their appearance, the visuals of what glam rock bands look like to the masses of screaming, adoring fans. It was really was what was the cherry on top of the whole complete package or brand they were selling. And Cooper, it worked.
it did. It really did.
I mean, we just love the visuals and the theatrics of Def Leppard and the other glam metal bands while performing. It put their mojo on steroids, no doubt.
Yeah.
You think about the other 80s groups like White Snake, Motley Crue, which one of our girl squad, that's one of her bands there.
Oh my God.
You remember that one song? It goes, do do do, Dr. Feel Good, do do do.
Yes.
I was running errands yesterday, and that was on the radio. I'm like,
In that Guns N' Roses.
oh, is it them or is it Motley Crue?
Oh, you know what? Maybe it is Motley Crue.
It was on one of those 80s stations, like their lunchtime 80s.
It was Motley Crue. I just looked it up.
It's so, it's kind of, it's very, we'll take it though.
We gotta have something.
Oh my gosh. Now think of the other 80s groups like, White Snake, Motley Crue,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, Europe and Twisted Sister, Poison, and so on.
Hmm.
So the argument, as you said, Cooper, is that appearance is not talent, but most of these glam metal groups possess both. And again, it worked.
Yeah. You name some that are undeniable talent.
Oh, yeah.
And Def Leppard definitely had this intoxicating mojo too. Glam metal was all the rage throughout the 80s. So glad we came up during that time.
Me too.
Can't express it enough. But the old adage of what goes up must come down. And unfortunately, glam metal suffered a significant decline in popularity around early 90s, I'd say, even
Yeah.
into mid 90s,
Uh-huh. Hmm.
due to rock music morphing into grunge and more alternative, revolutionized hard rock fare.
Yeah.
And the visual style promoted by the hair bands changed to a more natural, stripped down aesthetics versus the big hair type spandex and leather outfits. And of course, the makeup,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
as well as the androgynous aesthetics promoted of AOR rock.
Right.
But we haven't gotten there yet, thankfully, this week. We're just about there around the time Def Leppard exploded into the sphere to take this crown with their fourth album, Hysteria. Released on August 3rd of 1987.
Okay, everything about what you just said. Okay, that's for one. 1987. That was my year, Coop. Hysteria. That is my album. Okay. Def Leppard. That was my group. Okay. Where's my lighter at?
It's the show this week.
Yes. Who's responsible? And it's Cooper. Oh, but no, really. I mean, Def Leppard was 110% the most nostalgic background soundtrack to so much of what life consisted of back then.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm getting a little misty eyed on that right now. Truly, this is my favorite album of Def Leppard of all time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I seriously have this in my car CD player right now. It's loaded up. Okay, I mean, like it's on repeat. Like my favorite song, it's on repeat, and
Wow.
I have it on my phone. I can hook it up with Bluetooth and everything. Yeah, all I gotta do is push play, and those songs are ready. It has to be ready. Let me repeat. Def Leppard is my jam.
Kennedy, I think we have a problem.
I do. I need a 12-step program. Okay. I know. My hubby gets in the car. He's like, Oh, Def Leppard again. I'm like, yes, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, so he's definitely going to be taking you for your 12 steps, huh?
Oh, probably.
Only because he keeps having exposure therapy.
Exactly.
Oh, God, I concur, Kennedy. And apparently, we're not the only ones, right? Thankfully.
Right. Right.
So, this follow up album to Pyromania, Hysteria, had so much surrounding its creative process, as well as some of the band members involved. But despite some of the interesting drama that went down at the time, it took 3 years for the Hysteria album to come out.
Mm-mm-mm.
It was by no means smooth sailing, but well worth the wait.
Facts.
Slow and steady, right, Kennedy?
Thanks, guys.
Because, yes, we are happy that it finally did come out.
Yes, this was a masterpiece, truly.
Yeah. So, fun fact, I forgot to mention this earlier, but do you know how the band got to be eventually known as Def Leppard?
Oh, tell.
Okay, so well, lead vocalist Joe Elliott proposed the name Def Leppard, which was originally a band name he thought of while designing band posters in art class. So, pretty cool, huh?
Yes, it is cool.
And it was originally spelled deaf as in Deaf leopard, as in the animal.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's neat. I always like the backstory, how the people come up with their name or their brand and stuff.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's just tight. Def Leppard, I mean, come on. Like, what did you say earlier? They were like, hey, we call ourselves Atomic Mass. No, just no. I mean, it's probably tight at the time, but Def Leppard far surpasses that. I don't know.
Yes.
That
This
always
is
sounded way cool.
it's good that it wasn't just a one and done. Like there was a vote apparently, and it's like, yeah, this isn't working.
Yeah, if that was Colonel Mustard that had said that's put the hammer down, said it's atomic mass, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I'm sure
I don't think so.
we can't have a Colonel Mustard. Okay. So yeah, Def Leppard is what it is. Always sounded way cool.
Absolutely.
So the creation of Hysteria took a little over 3 years to complete. I think you mentioned that a few minutes ago. Um, and its runtime of 62 minutes and 32 seconds. Hysteria, that makes the band's longest album to date.
Fun fact. Did you know that the album Hysteria was initially to be named Animal Instinct and was to be produced too by Mutt Lang? But he dropped out soon thereafter, citing exhaustion from, as he referred to, as a grueling schedule from the previous few years. Come on, Mutt.
Yeah, he was kind of the doorstop on stuff sometimes, wasn't he?
Yes.
But we can't deny the guy was a genius because this is why we're talking about Def Leppard because of his producing.
Uh-huh.
Oh, so Mr. Mutt, his doorstop activities greatly frustrated the guys in Def Leppard. With a segue of a couple other creative execs, due to this, they jumped on board to help out with the producing. So now that brings in Meatloaf, songwriter. His name was Jim Steinham, along with Neil Dorfsman as engineer. So they even tried to produce the album themselves, along with OG original producer Mutt Lang's engineer Nigel Green.
Nigel.
Nigel. That is a British name, isn't it? Nigel.
Nigel.
But alas, it proved a downward spiral with no success. So due to this, Def Leppard's initial recordings were scrapped.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's bad news.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So this obviously was one of the hiccups Def Leppard had to face when it came to creating the album Hysteria. But even though Hysteria's creative process changed hands and went through many producers, It ultimately had the bright spot of getting original producer Mutt Lang back back on board for the
Yay!
project. And now we're back in business. Hysteria was set to shine.
Yes, and shine it did. Mutt Lang's goal for Hysteria was to be a hard rock version of Michael Jackson's Thriller album, um, in that every track was a potential hit single. So the songs were ultimately written with this focus in mind, upsetting heavy metal fans who desired to have a straight sequel to the previous Pyromania album. Totally understand that though.
Yes, Pyromania offered hints of Def Leppard's traditional heavy metal sound found on their previous two albums. Hysteria removed them in favor of the latest sonic technology available back then.
Oh, do tell.
Yeah, you can hear and deeply appreciate the sonic technology sampled in the tracks Excitable, Gods of War, Rocket, and Love Bites.
Oh, there it is.
We pause for Love Bites.
Where's my lighter? Can't find it.
Does anybody know what her favorite Def Leppard song is? Anybody?
Does anybody have an extra lighter?
Fun fact. Did you know, just like with Pyromania, that every song in Hysteria was recorded by each member in the studio separately instead of as the entire whole band together?
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now, back to the show. This point of focus right here is so incredibly neat. And I saw a cool documentary on Def Leppard a while back that spoke on this. Um, Multiple vocal harmonies were enhanced by Mutt Lang's techniques, even pitching background vocals on all cuts. Guitar parts were now focused, showcased more on emphasizing melody than hard rock's more basic, cliched riffs. What is your favorite track on this album, Coop?
Well, you know what? I would have to say that it's Hysteria. I really, really like Hysteria.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's actually my favorite. So I have to ask you, Kenneth, what is your favorite song on this album?
This is a mystery, right?
Yes.
Well, I really like all of them. I know I like to cheat, but my absolute favorite track of Def Leppard's is Lighter Please, Love Bites. I'm telling you, Coop, it's in my CD player right now in the car.
My God.
I actually, for my anniversary last year, my hubby got it for me for the anniversary. So it was my anniversary gift.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they have a greatest hits collection. That's what I have.
Oh, nicely done, hubby hubs.
That's right. He got a couple cool points, though. But to me, Love Bites is Def Leppard. And I don't know, whenever I hear it, like even the very first few notes played, it instantly takes you back.
Yeah.
1987, baby.
Kenneth is definitely having a good day. We're talking about her favorite year and her favorite song. So everything is good and right in the world for her today.
It is, and the sun's out.
Oh. Fun fact. Did you know that Love Bites was already mostly written in vein of a country ballad by Mutt Lang when he originally proposed this track to Def Leppard?
Oh, crazy. No way.
I wonder if you'd still would have liked it as much.
I don't know. I think it was the special techniques and
Yeah.
touches that they did it for Def Leppard that put it over the top.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. That song just takes you places. I don't know. Like it's not just a song. Like it's a whole epic adventure once from start to finish. I don't know. It's great. I love it. But all I can say is that they did its due justice on it, and that's for certain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cooper, hearing the songs on this album and so many other hot songs during that era, again, it just takes you back to wonderful times. And we readily got to enjoy so many authentic offerings packaged in the realm of pulp culture.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, the time where everything was carefree, kids were, you know, in the moment, teens were hanging out at the pool, the malls, playing outside, going to Friday night football games,
Yeah.
hitting up your local mom and pop small time pizza joint, and on and on.
Which goes right along with what we're talking about in great detail this week, and just how strong and pivotal the music revolution was.
Yeah.
And with Def Leppard and other cool and crazy hair glam bands, it was huge, that integral part of the foundation of the MTV landscape,
Mm-hmm.
as well as pop culture in general.
Mm-hmm.
Def Leppard is absolutely incredible, and I'm so glad they're deeply woven into our nostalgia, Kennedy.
Oh, agreed.
Yeah, what say you? Yes.
Every single song of theirs is timeless, that's for sure.
Hmm.
Music of today, if you want to call it that, it does not hold a candle to the nostalgic sounds such as what Def Leppard created.
Yeah.
I mean, just take our two favorite songs of theirs for just a second. We just
Hmm.
stated, we talked about Hysteria and Love Bites. So I totally Love Bites. One of the many reasons why I adore that song was because it contains some of the most epic guitar riffs ever.
Yeah.
The guitar work in Love Bites, also so many other of their other songs were flawless. Like in your favorite song, Hysteria, there, Coop.
Yes. Hysteria has always been my favorite Def Leppard song. And about Hysteria, this is the kind of song which plays at the end of an ultra cool 80s film. Like after, two teenage stars finally fall in love and ride off into the sunset, which the whole track lasts 5 full minutes until the ending credits, and then it fades to black.
That is so 80s. I feel you, Coop. That's an awesome description of Hysteria.
And all of this going down in an IROC Z, no less. Rock ballads were very romantic once upon a time. We said it earlier that this music defined our lives and experiences. And these songs never get old.
Mm-mm.
Pour some sugar on me, 80s bona fide anthem if there ever was one.
Oh, yes, quite definitely. So we did get off a little track some about the warm memories and good times we can recall from our recent past. But now we'll speak of the tragedy and drama surrounding the album Hysteria. Yeah, so we've got to share the good as well as the bad. So, amidst the beautiful barrage of melodic rock sounds, there was a dark side surrounding the album that ushered in copious amounts of fear, uncertainty, and anxiety.
Correct. As many a Def Leppard hardcore fan out there no doubt is aware of, on December 31st of 1984, drummer Rick Allen had a horrible car accident.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, where his Corvette flipped off the country road.
hmm.
Yeah, and tragically resulted in the loss of his left arm.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no, not our ever fabulous genius drummer. Please
Oh,
say it is not so.
yes, that's the one you like, Doug, the drummer.
I know, I know.
gosh.
Hmm.
But here's the cool part, though. Following the accident, Rick Allen's bandmates were ride or die in firm support of him when he decided to return to playing the drums despite his disability.
Crazy, huh?
Yeah, so he ended up using a combination electronic acoustic kit with a set of electronic pedals that triggered as noted via MIDI the sounds that he would have played with his left arm.
Wow. Wow. Talk about sheer determination.
I know, right?
Hmm.
Def Leppard slowly continued production until Mutt Lange unexpectedly returned a year later. Yes, and Rick Allen had mastered his customized drum kit.
And we're so relieved that Mutt Lang is back again on board as producer for Def Leppard.
Thank you, Mutt.
But here's unfortunately a couple more mishaps that come a knockin'. One, where Mutt Lang had suffered an auto accident as well as sustaining leg injuries from which he quickly recovered.
Hmm. We thinks maybe Mutt really didn't want to produce this album, maybe.
Curious, right?
Yes.
And two, lead singer vocalist Joe Elliott suffered a bout of mumps.
Did you just say mumps?
Yes, mumps. In 1986,
Oh my gosh.
Joe Elliott admitted that those tragedies were the closest they've come to splitting up.
Ah.
Ah. He said that they were really lucky that four members of this five-man group had been together for 32 years, and this current lineup had been together through much for 23 years.
Wow, that's brutal. Um, but Def Leppard wasn't about to go down without a fight. Talk about lemons.
Yes.
The whole conglomerate surrounding Def Leppard was basically in the context of lemons, but the Leps stood strong. They took their time, they perfected their craft, and boosted each other, which tightened and heightened the band's morale. Their dynamic was wholesome, genuine, and pure amongst the five members as we've seen thus far. Rock and roll bands so often were tight knit crews. They were family, tight comrades, as they probably refer to themselves, being of the British persuasion, that truly helped and looked out for the other. Lemonade.
Mm. So get this. Fun fact. Given the tough times Def Leppard endured over a course of a 3-year recording process, did you know that the title of the album, Hysteria, was actually thought up by none other than drummer Rick Allen in reference to his 1984 car accident?
Oh, no way.
Yeah. The tragic but necessary amputation of his left arm and the ensuing worldwide coverage surrounding it.
Hmm.
Hysteria is also the last album songwriter guitarist bandmate Steve Clark was featured therein before his due to alcohol poisoning.
Hmm.
But fortunately for the fans, songs co-written by Steve Clark would appear on Def Leppard's next album, Adrenalize.
Oh, that's a lot of stuff our featured band had to duck and dive throughout the creative process of Hysteria. And now, provided with some intel and backstory, we've come to appreciate what Def Leppard stands for and represents even more.
Mhm.
Final recording sessions took shape in January 1987 for the track Armageddon It, and a last minute composition, Pour Some Sugar on Me.
Yay!
Right? Although producer Mutt Lang spent another 3 months mixing the tracks.
But
Maybe his leg, he was sat up with his legs still. I
that could have
don't
been.
know.
We'll give him that.
Okay.
So, having said that, Hysteria was finally released worldwide on August 3rd, 1987. But the song Animal, as the lead track in other countries, sans Canada and the US, were lead single released for the album in Canada, and in the US was the single Women.
Okay. Well, as one of the world's best-selling musical artists, Def Leppard have sold more than 100 million records worldwide, with 2 albums garnering the RIAA Diamond certification, that being both Pyromania and Hysteria. This honor makes them one of only 5 rock bands with 2 original studio albums selling more than 10 million copies in the US. So, we have a bit of caramel apple trivia for you, our listeners. So, we just said Def Leppard is one of 5 bands with 2 original studio albums selling more than 10 million copies here in the US. Can you name the other 4 bands in that classification lineup? Hit us back with your most insightful and interesting answers.
This will be interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Def Leppard ranked number 3 in VH1's 100 Greatest Artists of Hard Rock and ranked number 70 in 100 Greatest Artists of All Time. Fun fact, both the band Def Leppard and bandmate Steve Clark were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in the year of 2019. Steve Clark was eventually replaced with bandmate guitarist Vivian Campbell, who's still going strong with Def Leppard currently.
Of course, there's so much more to ooh and ah discover about one of our all time favorite glam metal bands. But sadly, Hysteria in the year 1987 is about all we'll deep dive into due to our obvious decade parameters. But to soon cap off our discussion on Def Leppard this week, what have we brought back to our collective nostalgic minds? To you, our Orchard Archivers?
Yeah, the canon of Def Leppard represents a lot more than just music and or musical style as we vividly described. It's a mixture of hard rock, AOR rock, pop and heavy metal elements, loaded and armed with its multi-layered harmonic vocals and its intoxicating guitar riffs.
Facts.
So they were often considered one of the top bands of the new wave of British heavy metal movement of the 1970s. That's late 70s, actually.
Yeah.
Def Leppard didn't much care for the branding, stating, and I quote, "We didn't agree that our music was anything like Iron Maiden's."
Uh-oh. Well, it sounds like they were a bit annoyed by this comparison.
Yes.
But in the mid 80s, Def Leppard naturally became associated and synonymous with a growing glam metal scene, mainly due to their mainstream charted success and glossy production. And according to Joe Elliott, Def Leppard were influenced by everything from pure pop to downright hard rock.
Mm.
That's our boys.
Yup.
And Cooper, this maybe is our biased opinion, but there was something deeply hypnotic about the look of so many of these hair bands.
I know.
I mean, the Leps looked pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So there was something very alluring, rebellious, and strangely edgy when it came to that hypnotic draw that so many of these glam bands had back in the day. I mean, you had their look, you think about their clothing, the way they handled and teasingly played their instruments.
Yes, and of course the hair and throngs of screaming girls crowding the stage.
Uh-huh.
We would so often see these in their videos and such.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And just describing and thinking about all of these elements are so nostalgic. Pour some nostalgia on me. It's so cool that we've lived through this golden era, Kennard. Remembering this from a front row seat perspective.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
get this, in speaking highly of Def Leppard, here's an outstanding quote from Brian May, famed lead guitarist from the rock band Queen. He says, and I quote, "Def Leppard, these guys are not just crowd pleasers. They also embody such an amazing technical excellence. They have it all." End quote.
Awesome.
Yes, it was Brian May who helped make Queen one of the most successful bands in rock history. He did the honors of inducting Def Leppard into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. How awesome is that?
That is majorly cool. And speaking of amazing, what an amazing orchard trek we've enjoyed this week.
Yeah, so cool.
Yeah. I mean, we have a couple questions though set out for you, dear listeners. So which of Def Leppard's albums and or tracks are your favorite? How many times have you sang along to Animal or Pour Some Sugar on Me amongst friends? How many memories and good time feel good moments can be associated with Def Leppard's records? Hit us back. We're eager to hear your responses on this, so let us know what you recall and let's ignite this fascinating discussion.
So, what more can we say about Def Leppard? It all started to ignite from their first album, On Through the Night, in 1980, to 7 years later. Hysteria cementing the band as legendary icons. Hysteria spent a total of 96 weeks in the top 40.
Mm,
That's a long
it is.
time. Fun fact: Def Leppard won 2 awards at the 1989 American Music Awards for Favorite Heavy Metal, Hard Rock Artist, and Album for Hysteria. Their fame and shining reputations carries on currently, as we are excited to announce that Def Leppard sets to embark on a massive worldwide co-headliner tour alongside another retro fan favorite, Journey.
Oh my goodness, really?
Yes, dominating large venues, stadiums everywhere.
Oh, that is epic.
Cool. Coming to a town near you, maybe?
OMG! Oh my goodness. See, you don't get excited about stuff like that anymore. Like you hear
No.
about artists and stuff now, and you're just like, who?
Right, right.
I mean, literally, real quick, there is like artists, like you'll see their name, you hear them in pop culture around here, and you're like, I don't know any of their songs. I don't know who this is.
Yeah, literally. Who?
Yeah, and we're talking about Def Leppard, and you just said they're gonna team up with Journey, and we're going, whoa, I can't contain the excitement, you know. And you're
True
not even listening.
talent.
Yeah, and you're not even listening to their songs or anything, just say their names.
Exactly.
It's totally different now. Okay, I gotta calm down. I gotta calm down. That's so cool. So, lead vocalist Joe Elliott is quoted as saying about their tour, he says, and I quote, "This tour is going to be a blast." We've toured together before.
Mm,
It was massive and it was good. But this time it's going to be even bigger and better. End quote.
nice. Very cool.
I know. I would love to get tickets to that, but the Def Leppard sold a tremendous number of albums and put on concerts and live shows back in their prime. Oftentimes they wrote and come up with their own lyrics. But other than their timeless music, what again was their true appeal to the many a Gen Xer and Xennial Coop? What was that?
Well, simply put, Def Leppard has tremendous appeal to the throngs of female fans.
Guilty as charged.
Who were a good bit of their loyal followers, buying their singles, records, tuning in regularly, and such.
Uh-huh.
Yes, this is exactly what we'd want to hear blasting continuously over the radio waves. Glam metal, aka Def Leppard, due to awesome, excitable nostalgia, will always have its true and tried fans.
Oh, yes.
These two caramel apples are right there with the best of them.
Well said, Cooper. Through tragedy and triumph, Def Leppard is one of the most influential bands of that awesome era. The future will be of no exception. Rocket! Hey!
Love what you heard on this week's episode? Well, the answer is simple. To tune into future treks and to the Orchard Archives, meet up with us here next week. Same time, same place at the sweet spot. Subscribe, review, and spread the word. See you next time, Retro Buffs.